The stars looked peaceful from the bridge of the Zephyrian flagship. Admiral Kethvar stood tall, his blue skin glowing under the soft lights. His 4 arms moved across the control panels with practiced ease. He had done this many times before. 17 star systems had fallen to his fleet. 17 different alien races had surrendered without much of a fight. Today would be number 18. "Admiral," called out his second-in-command, "we are approaching the human system. All ships report ready." Kethvar nodded. The humans were new to the galaxy. They had been discovered only 6 months ago. The Zephyrian scouts had watched them. From far away, they seemed weak. Their ships were small and used old technology. They had no energy shields like the Zephyrians. Their weapons shot metal bullets instead of energy beams. Most importantly, they appeared to be traders, not warriors. "How many ships do they have?" Kethvar asked. "Our spies report 22 vessels total. 12 small ships they call frigates. 8 medium ships called destroyers. 2 large ships they call battlecruisers." Kethvar almost laughed. His fleet had 300 ships. Each one was the size of a small city. His smallest ship was bigger than their largest. This would be over quickly. What about their planet? The colony world is called New Denver. Population of 2 million humans. They have some basic defense. Satellites, but nothing that can threaten us. The Admiral walked to the great window that showed space ahead. Soon, 300 Zephyrian warships would drop out of hyperspace around the human world. The sight would be enough to make any reasonable. Species surrender. It always worked. "Sir, we are ready to jump." Begin the operation. Space twisted and bent. The Zephyrian Third Fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Each ship took its assigned position around the human world. The formation looked like a great net with the planet caught in the middle. On the bridge, sensors began picking up the human ships. They were spread out around the system, doing normal patrol duties. Kethvar could see them on his screens. They looked so small and weak. "Admiral, the human ships are moving toward us." "How many?" "All of them, sir. 22 ships approaching our position." Kethvar felt amazed. Were they really going to fight? Did they not understand what they were facing? His fleet could destroy their entire civilization in minutes. Open. A communication channel to their lead ship. The main screen flickered and showed the bridge of a human ship. A man with brown hair and tired eyes stared back at them. He wore a simple blue uniform with captain's bars on his collar. "I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire. You will surrender your world immediately. Your resistance is useless." The human captain studied the Zephyrian for a long moment. His face showed no fear. This surprised Kethvar. Usually by now, the alien leaders were begging for mercy. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the human ship Liberty Bell. This is human space. You have 30 minutes to leave before we consider you hostile." The Zephyrian bridge fell silent. Then, slowly, laughter began to spread among the crew. The human was threatening them. This tiny ship and its weak captain were giving an ultimatum. To the mighty Zephyrian fleet. "Captain Morrison," Kethvar said, his voice full of amusement, "look at your sensors. We have 300 ships. You have 22. Each of our ships is 10 times the size of yours. We have weapons that can crack planets. You have metal bullets." Morrison's expression did not change. 29 minutes and 30 seconds. "You cannot be serious." "I am always serious when it comes to protecting human lives." Kethvar studied the human more carefully. In all his years of conquest, he had never met a species that refused to see reason. The Altarians had surrendered after seeing just 10 Zephyrian ships. The Votans had given up before the first shot was fired. Even the warrior race of Krex had negotiated a surrender when they realized they were. outnumbered Dot, but this human showed no sign of backing down. "Captain Morrison, we do not wish to destroy you. Surrender now, and your people will be treated well under Zephyrian rule. Your planet will become part of our empire. You will have protection and prosperity. Not interested? Then you will all die. Maybe, but we will make you pay for every life you take." The communication ended. Captain Morrison had cut the connection from his side. Cathvar turned to his officers. "Are our weapons ready?" "Yes, sir. All ships report full power to weapons and shields." "What are the humans doing?" The sensor officer checked his readings. "Their ships are moving into defensive positions around the planet. They are not powering up weapons yet. Fools. They think their little ships can stop us." But something bothered Cathvar. In all his experience, no species had ever been this calm when facing impossible odds. The humans should be panicking. They should be running or begging. Instead, they were taking position like they actually planned to fight. "Sir, we are getting reports from our scout ships. Human cargo vessels throughout the system are beginning to move." "Evacuation ships?" "Unknown. They are not heading away from the planet. They appear to be moving toward our fleet." Cathvar frowned. That made no sense. Why would civilian ships move toward a battle zone? Are they armed? Sensors show no weapons on the cargo ships. They appear to be carrying mining equipment and industrial supplies. Probably refugees trying to surrender directly to us. Ignore them for now. The minutes ticked by slowly. Cathvar watched the human fleet take position. They formed a loose screen between his ships and their planet. It was a classic defensive formation, but completely useless against his overwhelming numbers. "Admiral, the human deadline is approaching. All ships, prepare for battle. When the 30 minutes are up, we begin orbital bombardment. Target their military vessels first, then their defense stations." Cathvar felt confident. This would be over quickly. The humans would realize their mistake and surrender after the first exchange of fire. Most species did. Once they saw that their weapons could not penetrate Zephyrian shields, they gave up, but something nagged at him. The human captain had been too calm, too sure of himself. No species had ever been that confident when facing the Zephyrian fleet. "Sir, 30 minutes. Cathvar took a deep breath. "Signal the fleet. Begin the attack." That was when everything went wrong. The human ships disappeared. Not destroyed. Not retreating. They simply vanished from sensors. Where did they go? Cathvar demanded. "Unknown, sir. They were there one moment, gone the next." "How is that possible? We are detecting some kind of stealth technology." "Our sensors cannot penetrate it." Cathvar felt the first touch of worry. The humans had been hiding their true capabilities. They did have advanced technology after all. Find them. Use all sensors. "Sir, we are getting multiple contacts. The human cargo ships are accelerating toward our fleet. Destroy them." "Sir, they are not attacking. They appear to be dumping their cargo." The main screen showed the view outside. Hundreds of human cargo ships were releasing their loads into space. Old satellites, construction materials, mining equipment, and other debris formed growing clouds around the Zephyrian fleet. "What are they doing?" "Unknown, sir." That was when Captain Jake Morrison's voice came over the communication system. It was being broadcast to every ship in the Zephyrian fleet. "Zephyrian fleet, this is your final warning. Leave now or face the consequences." Cathvar opened his own channel. "You cannot threaten us with space junk, human." "We will see." The communication ended again. Cathvar stood on his bridge, surrounded by his officers, trying to understand what the humans were planning. They had hidden their ships. They had surrounded his fleet with debris, but none of it made sense. "Admiral, what are your orders?" Kethver looked at the tactical display. His 300 ships were still in position. The human world was still defenseless. Whatever the humans were planning, it could not possibly work against his superior firepower. Begin orbital bombardment. Show them the power of the Zephyrian Empire. But as his ships prepared to fire, Kethver could not shake the feeling that he was missing something important. Something that would change everything. Captain Jake Morrison cut the communication link and turned to his crew. The bridge of the Liberty Bell was quiet, except for the soft hums of computers and life support. His officers looked at him with trust in their eyes. They had served together for 3 years. They knew their captain would not lead them into a hopeless fight. Lisa, signal the fleet. Execute Protocol 7. Commander Lisa Hayes nodded and began typing on her console. Protocol 7 acknowledged by all ships. Communications blackout in effect. Morrison walked to the window and looked out at the enemy. Fleet. 300 massive ships hung in space like sleeping giants. Each one bristled with weapons and carried enough firepower to level a city. Any normal person would feel fear looking at such overwhelming force. But humans were not normal. Morrison had studied military history since he was a child. He knew about the Battle of Thermopylae, where 300 Spartans held off an army of thousands. He knew about the Alamo, where a small group of defenders fought against impossible odds. He knew about countless battles where outnumbered. Humans had found ways to win. The difference was not in their weapons or their technology. The difference was in their minds. "Jake," Lisa said quietly, "are you sure about this?" Morrison smiled. "The Zephyrians have conquered 17 worlds. Do you know what all those worlds had in common?" "What?" "None of them were inhabited by humans." On board the battlecruiser Minuteman, Commander Lisa Hayes activated her ship's stealth system. The huge vessel seemed to fade from view as special panels absorbed and redirected light and sensor waves. Around the system, 21 other human ships did the same thing. The Zephyrians had technology that was more advanced in many ways. Their ships were bigger, their weapons more powerful, their shields stronger. But they had never faced an enemy that had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war. Humans had fought each other for their entire history. They had learned every trick of battle. They knew how to hide, how to strike from unexpected angles, how to turn weakness into strength. Most importantly, they knew how to think like predators. The Zephyrians thought like prey. Captain Danny Rodriguez commanded the destroyer Ranger. His ship was hidden inside the wreckage of an old space station. The metal debris provided perfect cover for his stealth systems. He watched the enemy fleet through his sensors and smiled. "Sir," his weapons officer said, "the cargo ships have finished dumping their loads. The debris field is in position." "Good. Signal the mining ships. Tell them to begin Phase 2. What the Zephyrians did not understand was that humans had been preparing for this day for months. Ever since first contact with the galactic community, human military leaders had known that conflict was inevitable. They had studied every alien race they encountered. They had learned their strengths and weaknesses. The Zephyrians were powerful but predictable. They always used the same tactics. Overwhelming force applied in a direct assault. It worked against species that fought according to rules. It would not work against humans. Major Kate Sullivan sat in the cockpit of her fighter, hidden inside a cargo container that drifted with the debris field. Around her, 49 other pilots waited in similar containers. They had been there for 6 hours, breathing recycled air and waiting for the signal to launch. "Control, this is Viper Squadron. We are in position." "Acknowledged, Viper. Stand by." Kate checked her weapons one more time. Her fighter carried 6 missiles and 2 rail guns. Against a Zephyrian battleship, it was like bringing a knife to a gunfight. But humans had learned long ago that the size of the weapon mattered less than how you used it. His Zephyrians were about to learn that lesson too. On the surface of New Denver, General Rick Stone stood in the command bunker and watched the tactical display. Every human ship showed as a green dot on his screen. The enemy fleet appeared as red dots that surrounded the planet like a noose. "General," his aide said, "the orbital defense platforms are ready. What about the evacuation?" "All civilians have been moved to the underground shelters. The planet is as ready as we can make it." Stone nodded. The people of New Denver were farmers and miners, not soldiers. But they were human. When the fighting started, every one of them would do their duty. "Sir, the fleet is signaling." They are ready to begin the attack. Stone looked at the display one more time. In a few minutes, the most powerful fleet in the galaxy would discover what happened when they attacked humans. He almost felt sorry for them. Give the signal. Let them know. We are go for Operation Hornet's Nest. In space, the message reached every human ship at the same time. Captain Morrison read it on his screen and felt his heart rate increase. Not from fear, but from anticipation. Every human warrior throughout history had felt the same thing before battle. The excitement of facing a dangerous enemy. The knowledge that they would either win or die trying. All stations, this is Morrison. Remember your training. Trust your equipment. Watch your wingman's back. And show these aliens why humans do not surrender. The response came from 21 ships scattered throughout the system. "Yes, sir." Morrison turned to his weapons officer. "Arm all missiles. Prepare to engage. Missiles armed and ready. Targets." Locked. The Liberty Bell was hidden behind a large asteroid, its stealth systems making it nearly invisible. Morrison had chosen his position carefully. From here, he could hit 3 different enemy ships before they knew what was happening. But the real surprise was not the human ships. It was what the humans had learned about the Zephyrians during months of careful observation. The alien fleet was powerful, but it had weaknesses. Their formations were rigid and predictable. Their communications used frequencies that humans could jam. Their shields were strong against energy weapons, but had never been tested against kinetic attacks. Most importantly, the Zephyrians had never fought an enemy that refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Carter led a team of 40 Marines aboard a stealth transport ship. They had been drifting with the debris field for hours, waiting for their chance. Their mission was simple: board an enemy ship and cause as much damage as possible from the inside. "Colonel," her sergeant said, "the enemy is beginning their attack run." Carter checked her weapons one more time. She carried an assault rifle, 4 grenades, and a plasma cutter for getting through doors. Her Marines were equipped the same way. Against aliens who had never fought humans before, it would be more than enough. Remember, we are not trying to capture the ship. We are trying to disable it. Hit the power systems, the communications, and the life support. Make them too busy fighting fires to fight our fleet. The Marines nodded. They had trained for this mission for months. They knew the layout of Zephyrian ships from intelligence reports. They knew where to hit to cause maximum damage. "Colonel, we are getting the signal. It is time." Carter smiled. "Marines, lock and load. Let's show these aliens how humans fight." Back on the Liberty Bell, Morrison watched the enemy fleet begin to move. The huge Zephyrian ships were turning toward New Denver, preparing for their orbital bombardment. Their weapons were charging up, ready to rain death on the human colony. They would never get the chance. "Jake," Lisa said, "I am reading massive energy buildup from the enemy fleet. They are about to fire. Signal all ships. Execute Operation David." Throughout the system, human ships received the message and began to move. Stealth systems powered down as weapons came online. The invisible human fleet suddenly appeared on Zephyrian sensors, like ghosts materializing from thin air, but they were not where the aliens expected them to be. Captain Rodriguez fired first. 6 nuclear missiles launched from the Ranger each, one guided by human precision targeting systems. They streaked through space toward the Zephyrian flagship, hidden among the clouds of debris that the cargo ships had dumped. Admiral Kethver saw the missiles coming and felt his first moment of real concern. Nuclear weapons were crude by Zephyrian standards, but they were still dangerous. His shields would hold, but the electromagnetic pulse might disable his sensors. Defensive fire. Stop those missiles. Zephyrian point defense systems opened fire, destroying 5 of the 6 missiles. The last one detonated against the flagship's shields, creating a brief sun in space that the shields held. But Kethver's sensors went dark. That was when the real attack began. Morrison's voice echoed across all human communications channels. All ships, this is Liberty Bell. The Hornets are loose. Repeat, the Hornets are loose. 22 human ships attacked from 22 different directions. They came out of asteroid fields, debris clouds, and the shadows of dead satellites. Each one fired everything it had at carefully chosen targets. The Zephyrians found themselves facing an enemy that fought unlike anything they had ever encountered. The humans did not try to match them ship for ship. Instead, they struck like wolves, hitting weak points and disappearing before the aliens could respond. Morrison watched his tactical display as the battle began. The enemy fleet was huge and powerful, but it was also confused and blind. Without their sensors, they could not coordinate their response. Lisa, target their communication arrays. We need to keep them from talking to each other. Targeting communications. Firing. The Liberty Bell's missiles struck true, destroying the communication. Array on a Zephyrian cruiser. Around the system, other human ships did the same thing. The battle for New Denver entered its second hour, and Admiral Kethver was beginning to understand the true nature of his enemy. His fleet of 300 ships was being torn apart by 22 human vessels that fought like nothing he had ever seen before. Sir, we have lost contact with 12 ships, his communications officer reported. 17 more report major damage. Kethver stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Red warning lights showed where his ships had been hit. The humans were not trying to destroy his fleet outright. They were systematically disabling it. Piece by piece. How is this possible? He asked his aide. They are so few, and we are so many. Sir, the humans appear to be using tactics we have never encountered. They strike from multiple directions simultaneously, then disappear before we can respond. Captain Ryan Matthews piloted his frigate Wolverine through the debris field that surrounded the enemy fleet. His ship was small and fast, built for hit and run. Attacks. Behind him, the wreckage of a Zephyrian destroyer drifted slowly through space. Control. This is Wolverine. Target destroyed. Moving to secondary position. Acknowledged, Wolverine. Good hunting. Matthews smiled as he guided his ship toward the next target. The Zephyrians were learning what it meant to fight humans, but they were learning too late. Their rigid formations and predictable tactics made them easy prey for human wolf packs. Sir, his weapons officer said, I have a lock on the enemy cruiser. It appears to be trying to restore communications. We cannot let that happen. Fire. All missiles. 6 missiles streaked away from the Wolverine, weaving through the debris field toward their target. The Zephyrian cruiser's point defenses tried to stop them, but the missiles had been programmed with evasive patterns that made them nearly impossible to hit. 5 missiles struck the cruiser's communication array, silencing another enemy ship. Lieutenant, Colonel Amy Carter and her Marines had been inside the enemy battleship for 30 minutes. They had entered through a cargo bay that had been damaged by missile fire. The Zephyrians had never expected boarders, so their internal security was weak. Sergeant, take your team to engineering. Plant charges on the main power conduits. Yes, ma'am. Carter led her remaining Marines toward the bridge. The Zephyrian crew was too busy fighting the external battle to notice the humans moving through their ship. When they did encounter aliens, the fights were brief and one-sided. Humans had been fighting in close quarters for thousands of years. The Zephyrians had never fought anything more dangerous than a training exercise. Colonel, her corporal whispered, the bridge is just ahead. 2 guards at the door. Carter studied the aliens through her scope. They were tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms. Their weapons looked advanced but unwieldy. Most importantly, they were not expecting an attack. From behind, take them quietly. The 2 Marines moved like shadows. Years of training had taught them how to kill without making noise. The Zephyrian guards never knew what hit them. Carter's team reached the bridge door and placed explosive charges. The Zephyrians inside were focused on their battle stations, trying to coordinate their ship's defense. They had no idea that death was standing right outside their door. Blow it. The door exploded inward. Carter and her Marines stormed onto the bridge, their weapons firing. The Zephyrian officers tried to fight back, but they were not soldiers. They were technicians and navigators, not warriors. Within minutes, the bridge was secure. Corporal, access their computer systems. Download everything you can. Yes, ma'am. I am getting their tactical data, ship positions, and communication codes. Carter smiled. This information would be invaluable for the rest of the battle. But more importantly, it would help humanity prepare for the Zephyrian Empire's inevitable. Returned out in space, Captain Scott Adams commanded the strangest vessel in the human fleet. The Iron Horse had once been an asteroid mining ship. Now it was a weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Sir, we are in position. The enemy battleship is directly ahead. Adams studied his target through the ship's cameras. The Zephyrian vessel was huge, easily 10 times the size of his converted mining ship. Its weapons could vaporize the iron. Horse in seconds, but it would never get the chance. Begin the approach. Keep us hidden in the debris field until the last moment. The Iron Horse drifted closer to its target, disguised as just another piece of space junk. Adams and his crew had practiced this maneuver dozens of times. They knew exactly what to do. Sir, we are within range. Activate the mining laser. The Iron Horse's industrial cutting laser was designed to slice through solid rock. Against the hull of a Zephyrian ship, it cut like a hot knife through butter. Within seconds, Adams had opened a hole large enough for his ship to fly through. Take us inside. The Iron Horse flew directly into the enemy battleship. Once inside, Adams' crew began their real work. They had brought enough explosives to level a small city. All of it was now sitting in the middle of the Zephyrian ship. Sir, charges are in place. We need to get out of here. Agreed. Emergency burn. Get us clear. The Iron Horse blasted out of the enemy ship and accelerated away as fast as its engines could push it. Behind them, the Zephyrian crew was just beginning to realize what had happened. 10-8. The explosion tore the battleship apart from the inside. The chain reaction spread to the ship's main power core, creating a secondary explosion that could be seen from the surface of New Denver. Admiral Cathvar watched one of his most powerful ships die and felt his confidence finally break. The humans were not just winning, they were making it look easy. Sir, we need to withdraw. Our losses are becoming catastrophic. Cathvar wanted to argue, but he could not deny the facts. His fleet was being destroyed by an enemy that should have been helpless. Every tactical advantage the Zephyrians possessed had been turned against them. Signal the fleet. Begin withdrawal to the outer system. Sir, we cannot signal the fleet. Our communications are still down. Then send runners. Use the small ships to carry messages. But even as he gave the order, Kethver knew it might be too late. The humans had trapped his fleet in a web of debris and stealth attacks. His ships were scattered and confused, easy targets for the human Wolfpack's. Major Kate Sullivan and her fighter squadron had been waiting for this moment. The Zephyrian fleet was trying to retreat, but their movements were slow and predictable. Perfect targets for a fighter attack. Viper Squadron, this is Viper Leader. We are clear to engage. Target the enemy engines. 50 human fighters burst from their hiding places among the debris. They were tiny compared to the alien capital ships, but they were fast and deadly. Each fighter carried enough firepower to cripple a ship much larger than itself. Kate selected her target, a Zephyrian cruiser that was trying to escape toward the outer system. Its engines were glowing bright blue as it accelerated away from the battle. Viper 2, form up on me. We take that cruiser. Copy, Viper Leader. The two fighters dove toward their target, weaving through defensive fire. The Zephyrian gunners were good, but they were not used to fighting something as small and fast as a human fighter. Kate's missiles struck the cruiser's engine assembly, causing a massive explosion. The ship went dark and began to drift helplessly through space. Viper, Leader to all fighters. Choose your targets. Do not let them escape. Around the system, human fighters swarmed over the retreating Zephyrian fleet like angry wasps. They struck at engines, weapons, and life support systems. Each attack was precisely calculated to disable rather than destroy. The humans wanted prisoners. They wanted information. Most importantly, they wanted survivors to carry word back to the Zephyrian Empire. Captain Jake Morrison watched the battle from the bridge of the Liberty Bell. His ship had taken some damage, but nothing critical. Around him, his crew worked, quietly and efficiently, coordinating the attacks of the human fleet. Jake, Lisa said, we are getting reports from all ships. The enemy is in full retreat. Morrison nodded. The first phase of the battle was over. Now came the difficult part. The Zephyrians would return with a larger fleet and better tactics. Humanity needed to be ready. Signal all ships. Begin recovery operations. I want prisoners, intelligence, and salvage. Everything we can get our hands on. Yes, sir. Morrison walked to the window and looked out at the battlefield. Dozens of Zephyrian ships drifted in space, their crews either dead or surrendering. The mighty Third Fleet of the Zephyrian Empire had been reduced to floating scrap metal, but this was just the beginning. The real war was yet to come. On the surface of New Denver, General Rick Stone emerged from his command bunker to find his aide waiting with a report. Sir, the orbital battle is over. The enemy fleet is retreating. Stone looked up at the sky. He could see the explosions and fires of the space battle, tiny flashes of light against the stars. Each flash represented a victory for humanity. What are our losses? Minimal, sir. We lost 3 fighters and 1 frigate. The destroyer Ranger is damaged, but operational. Stone shook his head in amazement. A fleet of 300 alien warships had been defeated by 22 human vessels. It seemed impossible, but the evidence was right there in the sky above them. Sir, we are receiving communications from the surviving enemy ships. They want to surrender. Accept their surrender, but keep them under guard. We have a lot of questions to ask them. Stone walked outside and 3 months after the Battle of New Denver, the Zephyrian Empire was in chaos. Admiral Kethvar's report had spread through the highest levels of government like wildfire. The idea that a primitive species had defeated their most powerful fleet seemed impossible to accept. High Command dismissed Kethvar from service and sent Admiral Zindi with the Second Fleet to finish what the Third Fleet had started. Zenda was younger and more aggressive than Kethvar. He believed the defeat had been caused by poor tactics, not superior enemies. This time we will not underestimate them, Zenda told his officers. We will bring 500 ships instead of 300. We will attack from multiple directions. We will show these humans the true power of the Empire. But the humans had not been idle during those 3 months. That Captain Jake Morrison stood in the briefing room aboard the new battleship Washington. Around him sat the commanders of the expanded human fleet. What had once been 22 ships was now 68 vessels of various sizes and capabilities. Intelligence reports that the Zephyrians are coming back, Morrison said, this time with 500 ships and new tactics. They have learned from their mistakes. Commander Lisa Hayes raised her hand. What about our new ships? Are they ready? Morrison smiled. Better than ready. The shipyards have been working around the clock. We now have ships designed specifically for fighting Zephyrians. The humans had spent 3 months studying captured alien technology. They had learned how Zephyrian shields worked, how their weapons functioned, and most importantly, how their minds operated. This knowledge had been used to create new weapons and tactics. Captain Danny Rodriguez now commanded the destroyer Ranger II, built to replace his damaged ship. The new vessel carried experimental weapons designed to penetrate Zephyrian energy. Shields. More importantly, it carried the knowledge gained from 3 months of studying alien prisoners. Sir, his weapons officer said, the new railguns are online. Test firing shows 90% penetration of Zephyrian shield technology. Rodriguez nodded. The humans had discovered that kinetic weapons could pass through energy shields if they moved fast enough. The new railguns fired projectiles at nearly 10% of light speed. No known shield could stop them, but the real secret weapon was not technological. It was psychological. Dr. Karen Wright had spent 3 months interviewing Zephyrian prisoners. She was a psychologist who specialized in alien behavior. Her reports had revealed something crucial about the enemy. The Zephyrians are not warriors, she explained to the fleet commanders. They are bureaucrats with advanced technology. Their entire society is based on hierarchy and following orders. When that hierarchy breaks down, they become helpless. This information had been used to develop new tactics. The humans would not just attack the Zephyrian fleet. They would attack the Zephyrian mind. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Carter now led an expanded Marine force of 200 soldiers. They had trained extensively in alien ship layouts and combat techniques. More importantly, they had learned how to spread panic among enemy crews. Our mission is not just to capture enemy ships, Carter briefed her Marines. Our mission is to make the enemy afraid to fight us. Fear is more powerful than any weapon. The Marines had developed psychological warfare, techniques specifically designed for use against Zephyrians. Loud noises, flashing lights, and unpredictable movements could cause alien crews to panic and abandon their posts. Major Kate Sullivan commanded an expanded fighter wing of 150 pilots. Her fighters had been upgraded with new engines and weapons, but the real improvement was in their tactics. We are not going to fight like civilized pilots, she told her squadron leaders. We are going to fight like pirates, guerrillas, and terrorists. We are going to make the enemy afraid to leave their ships. The human fighters would operate in small packs, striking without warning and disappearing before the enemy could respond. They would use every dirty trick in the book and invent new ones as needed. But the most important change was in the human fleet's overall strategy. They were no longer fighting a defensive battle. They were going on the attack. General Rick Stone now commanded the planetary defense of 5 human worlds. The Zephyrians had been watching other human colonies, and Stone was determined to protect them all. Sir, his aide reported, long-range sensors detect the enemy fleet. 500 ships, just as intelligence predicted. Stone studied the tactical display. The Zephyrian fleet was massive, But it was also predictable. They were approaching in standard formation, exactly as their doctrine required. Signal the fleet. Execute Operation Hornet's Nest 2. This time, the humans would not wait for the enemy to arrive. They would meet them in deep space, far from any planets. The battle would be fought on human terms, not Cepharian ones. Admiral Zen felt confident as his fleet approached the human system. His ships were arranged in a perfect sphere formation, with the most powerful vessels at the center. His tactics were flawless, his technology superior. Sir, we are detecting human ships on long-range sensors. How many? 68 vessels, sir. They appear to be moving to intercept us. Zenva laughed. The humans were making the same mistake as before. They were challenging a superior force to direct combat. This time, the Zephyrians were ready. For their tricks, all ships, prepare for battle. We will crush them before they can use their stealth technology. But the humans had no intention of using stealth. Instead, they did something the Zephyrians had never expected. They broadcast. A message on all frequencies. Captain Morrison's face appeared on every Zephyrian screen. Behind him, the bridge of the Washington looked clean and efficient. But it was Morrison's words that shocked the alien fleet. Zephyrian fleet, this is Captain Morrison of the human Navy. 3 months ago, you attacked our world with 300 ships. 60 ships survived to retreat. Today, you return with 500 ships. I wonder how many will survive this time. The message continued. Morrison began listing the names of Zephyrian ships that had been destroyed in the first battle. He gave details about how each ship had died, how many crew members had been lost, and which human vessel had been responsible. The battleship Kethmer was destroyed by missiles from the frigate Wolverine. All hands lost. The cruiser Vental was captured by Marines from the Iron Horse. Crew surrendered without resistance. Admiral Zen watched in growing horror as Morrison recited the fate of ship after ship. The human knew details that should have been classified. He spoke the names of Zephyrian officers who had died in the battle, but worse than the knowledge was the tone. Morrison spoke like a teacher reciting a lesson to children. He was not threatening the Zephyrians. He was educating them. Your admiral, Kethva, is currently in prison on charges of incompetence. Your high command has declared the defeat an impossible fluke. They have sent you here to restore the Empire's honor. Morrison paused and looked directly into the camera. They have sent you here to die. The transmission ended, leaving the Zephyrian fleet in stunned silence. Zenda realized that the humans had been watching and listening to everything. They knew about internal Zephyrian politics, military decisions, and even personal information about individual officers. Sir, his communications officer said quietly, the crew is requesting instructions. Zendal looked around his bridge. His officers were staring at him with uncertainty in their eyes. The human captain's words had shaken their confidence. All ships, attack formation. We proceed as planned. But the damage was already done. The human psychological warfare had worked perfectly. The Zephyrian crews were no longer confident in their mission. They were afraid. The human fleet approached the Zephyrian formation in a completely unexpected manner. Instead of hiding or using stealth, they came straight at the aliens in broad daylight. 68 human ships against 500 Zephyrian vessels. It should have been suicide. Instead, it was the beginning of the Empire's worst nightmare. The first wave of human attacks came from the fighters. 150 small craft swarmed over the Zephyrian fleet like angry insects. They did not try to destroy the alien ships. Instead, they targeted communication arrays, sensor systems, and command structures. Major Sullivan led her fighters in a direct assault on the Zephyrian flagship. Her squadron weaved through defensive fire with movements that seemed random, but were actually carefully choreographed. All fighters, remember the plan. Hit the bridge, the communications, and the life support. Make them blind, deaf, and gasping for air. The fighters struck with precision that amazed even the human commanders. Each pilot knew exactly where to hit to cause maximum disruption. Within minutes, the Zephyrian fleet was cut off from its central command. Admiral Zend found himself trapped on a bridge that had lost contact with the rest of his fleet. His sensors were damaged, his communications down, and his life support systems failing. "Get me damage reports," he shouted. "Sir, we cannot contact the other ships. Internal communications are also down. For the second time in 3 months, Zephyrian Admiral discovered what it meant to fight humans. The aliens had superior technology and overwhelming numbers, but the humans had something more important. They had the will to win at any cost. Captain Rodriguez brought the Ranger II into close combat with a Zephyrian battleship, his new railgun Zeph. The news of the Second Battle of New Denver traveled across the galaxy faster than any ship could fly. The Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled 17 star systems without challenge, had been defeated twice by the same small human fleet. The impossible had become reality. Emperor Zarkith sat on his crystal throne and read Admiral Zendas' report for the 3rd time. 500 ships had been reduced to fewer than 200. The survivors were damaged, demoralized, and spreading. Stories that threatened the stability of the entire empire. "Your Majesty," his military advisor said carefully, "perhaps we should reconsider our approach to the humans." Zarkith's 4 eyes blazed with anger. "You suggest we negotiate with primitives? We are the Zephyrian Empire. We do not negotiate with inferior species." But even as he spoke, the Emperor knew that something fundamental had changed. The humans were not inferior. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. They were a species that had turned warfare into an art form. On Earth, President Maria Rodriguez stood before the United Nations and addressed not just humanity, but the entire galaxy. News of the battles had reached Earth through faster-than-light communications, and the planet was preparing for war. "Fellow humans," she said, "and to any alien species listening to this broadcast, humanity has been attacked twice by the Zephyrian Empire. Twice we have defended ourselves successfully. We did not seek this conflict, but we will finish it." The president paused and looked directly into the camera. "To the Zephyrian Empire, I say this: leave human space. Leave us alone. Find other worlds to conquer, because Earth and her colonies are not available. If you return for a 3rd attack, you will discover what happens when you threaten the home world of humanity." The message was broadcast on all frequencies and translated into every known alien language. Within days, it had reached every corner of the galaxy. Captain Jake Morrison had been promoted to Admiral and given command of the entire human space fleet. He stood on the bridge of the new flagship Enterprise, watching the construction of humanity's first battle station. "Sir," Commander Hayes reported, "the orbital defense platform is 60% complete. When finished, it will be the most powerful weapons platform in the galaxy." Morrison nodded. The humans were no longer content to simply defend their existing colonies. They were preparing to expand into the galaxy, and they wanted the aliens to know it. What about the new ship designs? "The first dreadnought will be ready in 6 months. The carrier is 3 months behind schedule, but should be operational within the year." Morrison studied the blueprints on his screen. Human engineers had combined captured Zephyrian technology with their own innovations. The result was a new generation of warships, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. But the real change was not in technology. It was in attitude. Dr. Corinne Wright had completed her study of alien psychology and submitted her report to Earth Command. Her conclusions were disturbing but valuable. "Most alien species in the galaxy have evolved past the need for warfare," she wrote. "They solve disputes through negotiation, trade, or simply avoiding each other. The concept of total war is foreign. To them, humans are different. We evolved as persistence predators. We hunted prey by following them until they collapsed from exhaustion. This same mindset applies to everything we do, including warfare. We do not stop fighting until our enemy is completely defeated. This gives us a psychological advantage that no amount of advanced technology can overcome. Aliens fight to win. Humans fight to survive. There is a crucial difference. The report was classified and distributed only to military commanders. But its implications were clear. Humanity had a natural advantage in any conflict with alien species. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Carter had been promoted to colonel and given command of the new Human Marine Expeditionary Force. Her Marines were no longer just defenders. They were the tip of the spear for human expansion into the galaxy. "Sir," her aide reported, "the new power armor has passed all tests. Our Marines can now operate in any environment and engage any known alien species." Carter studied the test. Results: human Marines equipped with the new armor could survive in vacuum, underwater, or in toxic atmospheres. More importantly, they could fight effectively in any of those conditions. What about recruitment? Applications are running at 10 times our capacity. Every young person on Earth wants to be a Marine. The victories at New Denver have made the Corps the most popular service branch. Carter smiled. The human warrior spirit was alive and well. Young men and women were volunteering to fight aliens they had never seen, on worlds they had never visited. For reasons they did not fully understand. It was the most human thing imaginable. Major Kate Sullivan, now a lieutenant colonel, commanded the expanded fighter corps from the new carrier Yorktown. Her pilots were the best in the galaxy, trained in tactics that no alien species could match. "Ma'am," her squadron leader reported, "intelligence has identified 17 different alien species that are watching our conflict with the Zephyrians. They want to see how it ends." Sullivan looked at the star chart on her screen. Red dots marked Zephyrian worlds. Blue dots showed human colonies. Green dots indicated neutral alien species that were watching and waiting. What are they waiting for? Unknown, ma'am. But our analysts think they are trying to decide whether to ally with us or against us. Sullivan nodded. The galaxy was choosing sides. Humanity had forced every alien species to make a decision. Support the humans, support the Zephyrians, or try to stay neutral. But neutrality was becoming impossible. Captain Scott Adams now commanded a fleet of converted civilian ships that had been turned into weapons of war. Cargo haulers became troop transports. Mining ships became assault vessels. Even passenger liners were armed and armored for combat. "Sir, the Zephyrians are fortifying their border worlds. They appear to be preparing for a defensive war." Adams studied the intelligence reports. The aliens were learning, but they were learning the wrong lessons. They thought they could stop humans by building stronger defenses. They did not understand that humans specialized in breaking things. "Signal the fleet. We begin the offensive in 72 hours. Target the Zephyrian colony of Vextar. Time to show them what happens when they threaten human worlds." The third battle of the war would not be fought in human space. It would be fought in the heart of the Zephyrian Empire, on worlds that had never seen combat. The humans were taking the war to their enemies. Admiral Zenda had been placed under house arrest, pending a military tribunal. In his cell, he wrote his memoirs and tried to understand what had gone wrong. His analysis was read by Zephyrian commanders throughout the Empire. "The humans do not fight like any species we have encountered," he wrote. "They use tactics that we consider barbaric, dishonorable, and uncivilized. They turn civilian ships into weapons. They attack non-military targets. They show no mercy to defeated enemies. But more importantly, They never give up. Even when facing impossible odds, they continue to fight. They adapt their tactics constantly. They learn from every battle and become stronger. We cannot defeat them using conventional warfare. They are too creative, too persistent, and too willing to sacrifice everything for victory. Our only option is to avoid them completely. Emperor Zarkith read the report and felt fear for the first time in his long life. The humans were not just winning battles. They were changing the nature of warfare itself. Your Majesty, his advisor said, we are receiving reports from our border worlds. Human ships have been detected approaching Vexstar. How many ships? Unknown, Your Majesty. They appear to be using some form of advanced stealth technology. Zarkith stood up from his throne and walked to the great window that looked out over his capital city. For 1,000 years, the Zephyrian Empire had been the dominant power in this region of the galaxy. Now, that dominance was being challenged by a species that had been unknown just months ago. Send a message to the human fleet. Tell them we wish to negotiate. Your Majesty, you heard me. Contact the humans. Tell them we are prepared to discuss terms. It was the first time in Zephyrian history that the Empire had requested negotiations with an enemy that had not already been defeated. The message reached Admiral Morrison as his fleet approached the Zephyrian border. He read it twice, then called a meeting of his senior commanders. The Zephyrians want to talk, he announced. Emperor Zarkith himself has requested negotiations. Commander Hayes raised her hand. What are our orders from Earth? We are authorized to listen to their proposal. But we are not authorized to accept anything less than total Zephyrian withdrawal from human space. Colonel Carter spoke up. Sir, this could be a trap. The aliens might be trying to buy time to prepare better defenses. Morrison nodded. Possible, but unlikely. Our intelligence indicates that the Zephyrian Empire is on the verge of civil war. Several colony worlds are threatening to declare independence rather than face human attack. The truth was that humanity's military success had created political chaos throughout the Zephyrian Empire. Worlds that had been conquered by the aliens were beginning to rebel, inspired by human resistance. The Empire was collapsing from within. Sir, Lieutenant Colonel Sullivan said, what if they refuse our terms? Morrison looked at the star chart on the briefing room wall. Red dots marked Zephyrian War.